I was on council 6 years ago, and I really enjoyed my first term on council, although it took me at least 2 years to get comfortable in learning what needs to be done and how it needs to be done, and just the whole process. And I didn't really speak up and speak my mind and really push for different ideas because I thought, oh, I'll do it in my next term of office. And when it came time to have that second term of office, I wasn't voted in. So I'd lost that opportunity. And since I lost that opportunity, I looked at what my goals were going to be in the next 3 to 6 years. And one of those goals that I came up with is I really wanted to work full-time within this community. And one of the best ways that I could work full-time in this community was to be that of the mayor. And so I looked at, do I have the qualities and the abilities to be mayor of Lake Country? And I feel I do have the qualities and the leadership to be mayor. And so it was over 3 years ago that I decided that I wanted to run for mayor and lead this community forward. So now is the time, and it's just right, business-wise, family-wise, that I can take this opportunity to seek the office of mayor. What I'm going to attempt to do is bring more of a spirit of cooperation between the mayor, council, and staff. A lot of times I think we've been working in isolation, from my experience being on council before, and also to try and meet the people where the people are, not necessarily wait for them to come to City Hall when they have concerns or problems, but I'd really like to go to the coffee shop with some of the councillors or some of the staff and hear what they're saying at coffee talk. And I think that's where we can get a better sense of what is really going on, what the problems might be, the situations might be, and then we can better deal with how to resolve those issues. So that's one of the things that I really like to bring to the table, is more be out there with the people. It's kind of interesting to see the four of us as candidates really sort of are almost like-minded, or we have sort of maybe a heartbeat on what is happening in the community. I think what I would bring to the table that is a little bit different on my platform is to really hold staff accountable for the expenses that are being spent here in Lake Country, and also for the performances. The service level in City Hall, I think, can be vastly improved, and I think there's a feeling out there that maybe some of the staff aren't productive, and I'd really like to look at that more in depth and make sure that people that are in positions are productive, and that we are getting the value for the dollars that we're spending, because it's the people's money that we're spending. So that's one of the things that I'd really like to bring to the table, as well as I think my role and the way I lead would be more of a spirit of cooperation with neighboring governments, whether it be the regional district, whether it be the city of Kelowna, the city of Vernon, because a lot of our issues that we have are regional based, and so we need to have that cooperation to work together, especially between Lake Country and Kelowna, with our borders being very close. And it's a situation where if we don't have a spirit of cooperation, then I don't think we can get our best bang for the dollar in different issues. And then also with senior levels of government, because we need to have the help of the provincial government and the federal government in order to obtain grants, and working with them to achieve a lot of the goals where it comes to infrastructure. So it's, in my mind, it's critical, as well as another player is the Okanagan Indian Band, which we do have an agreement with, a protocol agreement, and I think that's a really good thing, but we need to expand that to work with them. Well, not being on council for the last 3 years, but I've still followed what is happening at City Council, because I like to be involved in the community, and they're a big part of the community. They've done a lot of things that are noteworthy, and for me, I would say one of the highlights would be, and that started maybe more than 3 years ago, but the hydro generation plant that we did in conjunction with the senior levels of government to bring that in, as well as I would say in the last term, 3 years that they've done is really pushed to the provincial government to get the new highway. And that's going to, with the shovels in the ground, now people can see that something is happening. So that's a huge accomplishment here. As well as what I just mentioned previously is the protocol agreement with the Okanagan Indian Band. That is also a very key statement for them to make. And I think those are really good highlights for the previous administration to hang their hat on. Yes, you have to be very specific in going after what type of business you want. They're not just always just going to come to you. And so I think we have to be more direct in our asking the business community. We have to be more involved with the business community and find out what is going on, not only in the Okanagan Valley, but in the province. What is something that is in need that we could fulfill? The other thing is we need to really streamline the process of development permits and just the way we do business in the terms of development, because there's a sense out there that we're not an open, friendly community to do business with. And when that is out there, you're not going to attract the business people to really develop here. And we have basically a blank canvas that it should be attractive to business. But it takes the landowners, it takes the developers, it takes the city staff, it takes the mayor, it takes the council, all working together in order to achieve that. And if any one of those players is holding back or making life difficult, then it doesn't go forward in a very timely manner. And there's opportunities that come along that we have to be ready for. And everything is in a cycle. And there's boom and bust, and we have to make sure that if we're going in a recession, that we plan ourselves accordingly. And if we're working out of the recession, which we are right now, we need a plan to make sure that we can attract the right businesses to our community. The lack of walkways, not necessarily sidewalks, but walkways, walking paths, is a high priority. And we've had too many tragedies already on our roads due to different circumstances. But part of it is we absolutely need the walkways, and it's got to be a priority in and around the schools, the Boys and Girls Club, in order to have safe pedestrian walkways. Too many times that we leave it to, when a piece of land gets redeveloped or it gets developed, then we'll put in the sidewalks, and we sort of ignore the older parts of the community or the parts of the community that maybe won't be developed, that we have to put the money up front for that and get it done. We can't just wait, because the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost. And so we have to make it a priority. And not necessarily curbs and gutters and sidewalks, but walking paths off of the main roadway. Because the roadways that we inherited aren't up to urban standards. It's more of a rural standard, most of the roads. And so that now creates a paradigm that you can't have both. You can't have rural and urban, but we do. And so that makes it critical for us to pay attention to where the high pedestrian traffic areas are. And that's not hard to tell when there's schools in the neighborhoods. One of the biggest ways to sort of ease that burden on the residential tax is to have more business tax, more corporate tax. Although it's sometimes unfair to put everything on the backs of the businesses, but businesses do pay a higher tax. And so if we were able to attract the businesses to Main Street would be a big boost to the tax base and take some of it off the residential. But another one is, for me, an issue with a tax base that is greatly business orientated right next to our borders that should be in our borders and not in our neighboring constituents. So to look at ways of how can we work with the City of Kelowna, with the provincial government, to do a boundary realignment. If that tax base was in the District of Lake Country, it would be a huge difference, both now and in the future. So that's something that I'd like to see, is us pursue somehow, some way of getting the borders realigned in order for us to have that kind of tax base in the District of Lake Country. I was on council 6 years ago, and I really enjoyed my first term on council, although it took me at least 2 years to get comfortable in learning what needs to be done and how it needs to be done, and just the whole process. And I didn't really speak up and speak my mind and really push for different ideas, because I thought, oh, I'll do it in my next term of office. And when it came time to have that second term of office, I wasn't voted in. So I'd lost that opportunity. And since I lost that opportunity, I looked at what my goals were going to be in the next 3 to 6 years. And one of those goals that I came up with is I really wanted to work full-time within this community. And one of the best ways that I could work full-time in this community was to be that of the mayor. And so I looked at, do I have the qualities and the abilities to be mayor of Lake Country? And I feel I do have the qualities and the leadership to be mayor. And so it was over 3 years ago that I decided that I wanted to run for mayor and lead this community forward. So now is the time, and it's just right, business-wise, family-wise, that I can take this opportunity to seek the office of mayor. The biggest thing for me to accomplish in the first term, and I'm thinking even in the first year, is to have a better spirit of cooperation, like I said, between mayor, council, and staff, and as well as our neighboring jurisdictions. Because again, if you have lines of communication open, are you always going to agree? No, you're not always going to agree. But it's a matter of getting the process right, and then getting that process understood by all parties involved, and also by the public. Get them involved too, and more so than what they are now, so that they have a degree of ownership to what is happening. And if that happens, then I think other things, the major things will take place. And to me, I'm not so concerned for myself in the first term. I'd really like to do the planning that my kids, grandkids are going to enjoy this place. So 50, 60 years from now, that when they look back and say, this administration did things right then, and we might not see that for a while. But that's what my goal is to look down the road to we don't get ourselves into a bind, and that it's not going to be costing the future generations a lot of money in order to accomplish something that we could have done here by just making the right process. So that's what I'm really looking forward to in my first term. I think to go back to when I was on council, one of the things that we initiated was a youth committee, and we had different levels at the high school. I think it was, we tried to get people from grade 10, 11, and 12 to form a committee and have 2 counselors be on that committee, as well as some of the staff of the school. And that gave a good, I think, introduction to, and it wasn't as successful as I wanted to, but I'd really like to re-see that committee start again and really put more emphasis on that. And then also what I would like to do is to get the youth involved is more of a, we as a council, mayor and council and maybe even some staff, go to a general assembly, go to the different public schools and do an awareness, whether it be issues that they might have, whether issues we might have, or just an open dialogue with them. Because the more you do that, go to their turf, the better it is, and you can't always wait for people to come to City Hall. So that's one of the ways that I would really like to establish more of a youth connect with the City Hall, is to go to them, see what's on their mind, and be in front of them and with them, and then work together. I love a lot of things about Lake Country. I moved here 21 years ago, and it was the best thing that I ever did. It was a situation where, looking back, 21 years doesn't seem like that long in comparison to some people, but in others, it's just a drop in the bucket. So, but I love the climate here. I love the beauty of the lakes and the mountains, and I especially love the people that are in Lake Country. Being involved right from when we got here with the minor hockey and our kids in the school and the school sports and in the church that I go to, it just we felt at home here right from the start, and I wanted to give back to the community as much as I could. And I really like the sense that people, when they do get here, they do get involved, and I'd like to see more people get actively involved in order to help our base of volunteers so that we can make this the best place on earth to live, and for some of us to work, and then it's just would be great, and that's what we want to look at. And there's so much to love. We have bigger centers close by, we have an international airport close by, we have a university close by. Those are all amenities that I think sometimes we take for granted, or we don't even look at the potential that it has for us. And just even the community itself, made up of four smaller districts that came together, and we want to come together to say that we're proud to be from Lake Country, and just to see the opportunities that our kids will have in the future is amazing. The recreation that we can have here, the lakes, even the tourism. Sometimes we, again, take for granted that, oh, it's another tourist, but they bring in dollars, and people want to come here. So it's how can we work together in order to improve the whole aspect of living in Lake Country. So there's a lot to love about this country.